Faurisson, no negative with the first. No. We're not stopping. We're not stopping. Faurisson, no negative with the first.
Shepperton, a quiet little town located in the south of England. Hometown of Robert Faurisson. On October 20, 2018, a meeting was organised by the brave revisionist Lady Reynouard and the British nationalist Peter Rushton. On the subject of freedom of speech, Professor Faurisson recounted his experience of revisionism, his life as a researcher and an investigator concerned with accuracy. After highlighting the worsening anti-repression in Europe, he recalled how, in 1976, he managed to obtain the plans for the Auschwitz crematoria, plans that had been kept secret since the end of the war. He was then able to discover that the premises presented as homicidal gas chambers were mere mortuaries such as they exist in all the crematoria. Technically, would it have been possible to turn these parts into gigantic chemical slaughterhouses for 1,000, 2,000, or even 3,000 people at a time? Testimonies and confessions, rather vague, affirmed it. But were they truthful? Professor Faurisson went then to the USA to see how, there, we executed by gas the condemned to death. The difficulty of the operation, which required a complex apparatus, had convinced him that, technically, these mortuaries of the camp of Birkenau could not have been used as places of death. As for the so-called gas chamber that millions of tourists still visit today, this is a bad fabrication of Soviet propaganda. In December 1978, Professor Faurisson presented his conclusions in a letter published by Le Monde, a French newspaper. 2 months later, 34 historians objected that one should not wonder how, technically, such a mass murder had been possible. It had been possible technically since it happened. Not convinced by this answer, Professor Faurisson had not ceased to expose and defend his conclusions. As for Vincent Reynouard, he told about his own course as a revisionist activist. A course that, after the prison in France, had led him to exile in this country. Anxious to demonstrate the paramount importance of the revisionist struggle, he explained how the myth of the Holocaust sterilizes beforehand any fight for a national revival. In the name of never again, a consensus is emerging, from which emerges a dictatorship, the democratic dictatorship of politically correct. Reynouard did not think so well. As soon as the meeting started, the hotel received phone calls from opponents. In cause, this tweet broadcast a few minutes ago by the anti-racist association Hope Not Hate. It denounced an international conference of Holocaust denial. In fact, an international conference, it was a small private meeting, gathering some 60 people, mostly seniors, who came to listen to 2 French speakers. Shocked that such an event could take place, a lady asked if, in England, the denial of the Holocaust was proscribed by law. What Hope Not Hate answered, it's legal. But for these fanatics, the law has authority only if it serves their aspirations and their political goals. Otherwise, they exercise the dictatorship that Reynouard mentioned in his speech. This exchange is blatant proof of this. To this woman who had warned the local police, an internet user recalled the principle of freedom of speech and asked him why, therefore, the police should be called. The woman replied, because it's a hate speech. We can see it here. These individuals place themselves above the authority to say what belongs to the good expression, which must remain free, and the bad one, which must be forbidden. And if the law does not go in their direction, in other words, if the people they fight still enjoy a few freedoms, then they manage to obtain a de facto ban. On October 20, 2018 in Shepperton, they mentioned the name of the establishment where the meeting was held and, with photos, they threatened to boycott the hotel chain. On the hotel's Facebook page, an activist warned the school by commenting, "Don't cater for Nazis. There is no excuse." Among the disruptive who telephoned was a journalist working for the scandal tabloid Daily Mirror. The height of cynicism, to encourage the hotel team to evict them, they referred to a duty to protect customers. One of their tweets stated, "We asked the hotel that given they have a duty of care to minority ethnic guests who may be staying at the hotel, would it not be better to tell the Nazis to leave?" They said they could not comment. But not only did we not threat anybody, but they were the ones who physically threatened the hotel. The proof was brought by a manager of the establishment who declared,
Thank you very much. I'm trying to explain to you. Yeah, the threats were made against the hotel and
As a result, he demanded their immediate departure. The organizers refused, on the grounds that they did not break the law. The hotel team turned off the lights, sounded the fire siren, while trying to prevent them from filming. This simple little anecdote is revealing. It confirms that in the name of never again, the myth of the Holocaust allows self-motivated dictatorship. It is enough to be designated as nationalist, racist or anti-Semite so that, against you, everything is allowed. In this climate of ideological terror, law and law enforcement have become useless. The simple threat made people obey, as here the team at the Shepperton Hotel. For nationalists, no freedom, starting with freedom of expression. More generally, in front of them, all the great principles are violated. In Vincent Reynouard's book on the 2002 presidential elections, He showed how, having entered the second round, Jean-Marie Le Pen, self-proclaimed Democrats violated the 7 rules that were to govern the democratic game. The most cynical excuse was that if Le Pen won an election then this election would not be democratic. Hence an announced refusal of the verdict of the ballot box in case the president of the National Front is elected in the second round, a refusal up to the threat of triggering a civil war. All this in the name of safeguarding democracy and never again. Hence the capital importance of revisionism. As long as the crippling myth of the Holocaust lasts, no hope of national rebirth will be possible. As early as 1948, Maurice Bardèche had warned us. 70 years later, his message has just been demonstrated once again.